Right now we're joined by Patrick Egan, who is a political scientist at New York University, particular focus on public opinion. And I want to ask you, do you think these events, they obviously get people inside the convention hall very excited, but are they having much of an effect on the broader public?
You know, we know from the past that conventions can have an effect on the broad public. You know, these days, it doesn't have necessarily a direct effect in that a lot of people experience the convention not on live television, but on programs, you know, across the web, across the internet, etc.
Yeah, ratings are down.
They are,
for television viewership, clearly.
That's right. On both conventions, that's correct, yeah.
And if you look at what happened after the Republican convention, I guess there might have been a bump in that Mitt Romney seemed to be lagging a little bit in the polls and he pulled even, but it wasn't much of a bump and not much change in public opinion that could really be discerned from the polls.
I think that's right. To the extent that you saw the Romney campaign moving up, it was really after the announcement of Paul Ryan as the vice presidential candidate. Yeah. And once you got through the convention, you weren't really seeing much of any kind of movement. So
explain something to me that Jerry Seib and I were talking a minute ago. It strikes me, having watched conventions for the better part of the last 3 decades, that this one, more than any other I've watched, and I'm talking about both conventions here, the Republican and the Democratic, is playing more towards the base. You don't really see that fight for the center, for the centrist voter that I feel like you've seen at other conventions. What is that about? I mean, at the end of the day, it's the folks in the center who will determine the election, isn't it?
Well, the folks in the center will determine part of the election, but another big part of what happens in elections is how well can you turn out your base. And a very good convention manages to speak to both of those constituencies. I think you actually saw the Republicans trying to reach out to the center with the kinds of speakers that they programmed during their convention. Again, if you just think about Chris Christie, Paul Ryan, and Mitt Romney, they're all from states that no Republican has won for over 2 decades, right? So the highlighted speakers in the convention were from places that were perhaps better defined by the center.
And I think but the speeches themselves had a lot of Republican red meat in them.
They did, but not of the kind, you know, not anti-immigrant, not really anti-abortion, not anti-gay, really focusing on issues that centrist voters trust Republicans on, taxes and deficits. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true of Michelle Obama's speech last night, which is, you know, the policy content was pretty light and really focusing a lot of issues that could arguably be thought of as appealing to centrist voters.
So what happens from here? If you come out of Charlotte and it looks like the 2 candidates remain neck and neck, are we going to fight it out that way all the way to Election Day?
Well, you never know for sure, and you know, in this profession, you never want to make very strong predictions. But generally, when we see the race coming out of conventions, it is actually a pretty good predictor of how the final result will look. So if the 2 candidates are neck and neck after, you know, let's say the weekend, chances are that's probably what we're going to see on Election Day.
We were talking earlier, one of the big factors in this election that we haven't had in past elections to the same degree are these enormous super PACs, big conglomerations of money on both sides, bigger on the Republican side than the Democratic side, but they're big on both sides, buying ads, attacking opposing candidates that aren't actually approved by the candidate themselves. It's not a very healthy development for democracy, is it?
Well, most people would say it's not, because what you like to have in any kind of political message is a sense of who's saying it, and more importantly, who's funding it. And sometimes the donors to some of these super PACs can be shadowy and kept under wraps. The interesting thing here is that it is one of these rare occasions when the money advantage is really against the incumbent party. And I think we're really going to see what that means over the next couple of months running up until Election Day as Republicans and their allies are really out-arming the Democrats in the run-up to the election.
Although Obama himself has been a fundraising machine, an extraordinary fundraising machine. He may not have been as strong, or his super PACs may not be as strong, but he seems to be doing fine raising money.
Yeah, he's actually raising money at a faster clip than he was in 2008. However, what's happening is that that's actually being overshadowed by an even more successful fundraising operation by the Romney campaign, which is an interesting development.
It's pretty extraordinary. We're told, we know, of course, that the president is now in Charlotte. We're told he will come out onto the convention floor tonight after Bill Clinton's speech. What do you think we're going to hear from Bill Clinton?
I think you're going to hear classic Clinton trying to connect the dots in a very, very simple fashion between democratic policies and economic prosperity. If there's one message that Clinton fine-tuned and honed during his candidacies and then his presidency, it's exactly that. And he's going to, my expectation is that's exactly what we're going to see in his speech tonight.
All right, Patrick Egan, thanks very much. Hope you can come back with us later this evening.